afternoon, Teddy. So I just got a couple of questions about your speech. And by the way, congratulations on making it to semifinals.
Thank you, Ben.
You started off your speech talking about how the families of the victims of the 9/11 attacks wanted closure and wanted to see the 9/11 terrorists convicted, right?
Right, and they were recognizing how the military commission system was inept at doing just that.
The military commission system has not yet tried them for these convictions. However, they are still being indefinitely detained, correct?
I think it's an important clarification to make. When you're being detained, that is not conviction and that is not justice. We delineate a difference between someone being held and someone being convicted.
Right, but they're still being indefinitely detained in Guantanamo Bay, correct?
There are some people indefinitely detained, but these people are eligible for trial and could be moved to federal courts.
Now, you talked about the example in your 1AC of the two drivers, I believe, or the two people who supported terrorists, one of them getting a harsher sentence at a federal court.
Correct.
Now, can you prove that the circumstances of those were exactly the same and the basic offense was comparable enough that we can compare these sentences?
Well, as I brought up, that's a somewhat unreasonable standard.
Okay, so then
the standard for someone deciding on those cases is completely different person to person. What is considered just, I suppose.
Okay, so you can agree that on each case should be taken case by case. We can't just say this person got a harsher sentence and this person, obviously there's injustice, right?
We demonstrated a systematic advantage because it related to the 32 versus 4,000 offenses. That applies to many more cases than just the two that we cited.
All right, then you talked about in the practical harms, you basically said there's no closure because there's a lack of due punishment, correct?
Both of those things combine to show the lack of justice in the
All right,
system.
so even if they are never tried in military commissions, even if they never see justice according to the affirmative team, they would still just rot in Gitmo for the rest of their lives, right?
As that quote from the victims brought up, this was currently when they were being held in Gitmo. They were being held in prison, but they were not convicted. And
right.
As those victims recognized, that is not justice.
They will still rot in Gitmo for the rest of their lives if they're never convicted.
That
right?
is not acceptable because it is not due punishment.
What different outcome do you wish to see through a federal court? A life sentence or a death sentence? Is that something that the affirmative team would rather see in an Article 3 court?
A conviction, and we're supporting what the advocacy in our plan and what the victims want. Sure.
Now, you talked about later in your speech about international cooperation. Could I just see that piece of evidence?
Sure, absolutely.
And actually also the piece of evidence about the increase in plea deals, I believe.
Right, so that should be here and here,
So also the point about the plea deal cooperation,
right.
Did that piece of evidence specifically link between the increase in the amount of plea deals and the increased intelligence that we were able to have?
It suggested that because of the fact that federal courts are better at meting out harsh sentences, that leads to cooperation from terrorists wishing to give more lenient sentences.
All right, thank you. That's all the questions I got.
Thank you.